Welcome to What's Lacking. It's your host, Larry Atencia. With me today is Drew Hightower. Care to give a brief introduction to our listeners?
Yeah, my name's Drew. I'm, I guess, an artist, many different kinds, pretty much.
Um, can you also just tell the audience how we know each other?
Well, my best friend, who is kind of like a brother to me, is your wife's brother.
Yeah, brother-in-law, I guess. Yeah. Shout out to Miguel. He's been a guest on the podcast. I think it's episode 3. So if you haven't listened to that one, make sure that you go back and take a listen. It was a really good episode. Drew, what do you do for a living?
Well, right now, I work at FedEx, just as like a package handler, but most of what I do is online.
Care to elaborate a little bit about that?
Well, I work on art commissions. People commission me to draw stuff for them or whatever. And I also stream as a VTuber and make VTuber models with like making the art and rigging it so it moves correctly. And I also started taking side jobs for voice acting.
That's an interesting and fascinating aspect of what you do. I know I've seen a little bit of your art, but I hadn't heard about VTubing or being a VTuber until you brought it up, and I very superficially looked at what it meant and what people who VTube, I guess is how you would say it, do, and it was really cool. So if anyone wants to sort of take a look at that and just look at it, how that's developing, that would be great. Do you want to just give people maybe your username, avatar? I don't even know what it's called, and sort of maybe a brief overview about what that entails, being a VTuber.
Well, if you are looking for my stuff on Twitter, my at is Oniheart Art, and on Twitch is where I stream is it's just Oniheart. There's a many different ways about being a VTuber, many different aspects about it, because everybody has their own thing that they do. More often than not, like the main thing to be a VTuber is, you stream or make like YouTube content as a character. Like, you don't even have to have a moving one. You can just have like a mascot PNG that is just there when you're streaming. It's interesting because it's kind of just the same thing as just regularly streaming. It's just you have a character, and it can do things that regular people can't because it's an anime character.
Right. I'm assuming it stands for virtual YouTuber.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That sounds cool. I will add your username on the show notes. So if you guys want to take a look and just explore that aspect of our digital world, you're definitely welcome to. Drew, are you married with children? What's your status on that?
I'm single.
No children.
No children.
Is that something that you foresee in your future? Is that something that you would want?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be a dad.
Okay. You've always wanted to be a dad. And why is that? It sounded like it's something that's important to you. So you care to tell me a little bit more about why it's something that has been a desire of yours?
Well, it has to do with me growing up with my dad. I don't really talk to him anymore for reasons. I just want to do better. I want to be a better dad than he was.
Okay, that's commendable, and I definitely think that you would be a great dad. What was your relationship with your parents? Can you tell us a little bit more? Maybe getting into the relationship that you have with your mother a bit more, since you already sort of let us know that your relationship with your dad was fraught and difficult.
My relationship with my mom is it's good. It's decent. It's we have a strong connection. She's always looking out for me. I'm grateful for that because she's really supportive.
Any last thoughts on the relationship with your father?
I'm not the only one in the family who has cut ties.
Okay. Enough said. Tell us a little bit about your educational experience growing up.
School.
Yes.
I I was usually good in school until I had to do homework. Uh,
Okay.
but I went and graduated college and all that, and I never failed any classes. So
So academically good, behaviorally good. Outside of school, you were sort of like just didn't care to do the work because no one was around to compel you to do it.
no, definitely my mom would get on me about doing my homework, but
Okay.
you know,
Stubbornness and hard headedness, or what?
I just wanted to do everything but homework. I mean, I would get it done. Sometimes I would rush it last minute, but
Yeah, pretty standard. I don't think most people enjoy doing homework, right? I think that's probably the difference between those who are in positions of power and who have a drive and ambition, and so they're like, this is what it takes for me to get ahead in the rat race. This is what I have to do. I think probably with you and people like me, I'm not artistic, but yeah, the artistic type usually aren't as beholden to being high performing in institutions of power, or those institutions that are going to allow you to, you know, rise up in the hierarchy of our society. So I'm assuming that that was the way that you were. You were like, what's the point of this? I want to do my art and just chill.
it was mostly the things that I had the most trouble with. Well, not trouble, but the things that I just really didn't care about doing was like history and anything besides math and science, because I knew
Okay.
that math was going to be important and science to a degree
Hmm.
was pretty important. And I was actually like really good at math.
Okay.
Had to calculate them taxes.
Important in the sense of it being a practical knowledge to have as an adult in the world, or just even even a child. It's funny because you mentioned that you didn't like history, and that's what I studied in college. We all have different likes and dislikes. I was not good at math, didn't like it at all. I'm more of a philosophy and student of history and societies and politics, and then science and math. I'm just like, I don't understand it. Well, I do understand it, but I'm not good at the brass and tacks practical level of, like, doing the equations, doing any of that. I just sucked, and I never had the work ethic to actually sit down and study and do the things that were necessary to improve, right? Because with math, it's literally just doing the homework, doing the work, doing the examples, and put it in the work. Whereas history and philosophy, you could get away with a lot more bullshitting, using bullshit in the technical term. What are your views on politics?
Not a political person. I don't really pay attention to that. I know enough to tell, like, out of all the great people running, which one is better than the other, but I don't really pay too much attention besides that.
Usually the choice between two lesser evils. That's how
Yeah.
people like to frame it. I like the saying, choosing the lesser of two evils will eventually lead us to hell regardless. But whatever, yes. I've noticed a lot of people seem to be a little hesitant to talk on political matters, and I wonder if that's to do with personality or personality traits, or rather how delicate and sensitive it's been with the culture wars that have been happening, and people just not wanting to become invested in that level of argument, divisiveness, etc.
People get too into it.
Yeah.
And it's also not even like you got to watch what you say, like even online, because now it's different online. If you can say one thing and then you'll catch stuff from like people you don't even know.
It's random, yeah. Before, yeah, it would be within your social circle of proximity, the immediacy of your church or your school or your neighborhood, and other public forums, fora, But now, yeah, like you said, anything could be seen and amplified on the internet and on social media, and trolls and people just anonymously looking to be annoying could just derail your day because either misunderstood or intentionally tried to misdirect or misunderstand just for entertainment. So yeah, I agree with you. Are you a religious person?
Uh, Not really.
Not
Like,
really. Can you tell us more as to why you're not a religious person?
well, I don't. I guess it's more like I don't believe in like a specific god or anything like that. I mean, if it was anything, I'm probably, if I was religious at all, it would be closer to like Buddhism
Yeah.
or something like that. Because I mean, there are things that you can't explain. So, and stuff happens in weird ways sometimes. But
Yeah.
I feel like to me, it's like placing too much faith or belief into something that you don't know is real when you could be putting that belief in yourself to try and get to where you want to be or do the thing that you want to do. Okay, you should just do that.
Very, very well said. I like that. Yeah. I also have a sweet spot for Buddhism just because out of all the religious traditions in the world, it seems to be less attached to supernatural metaphysical entities and beings, and it's more of a philosophical outlook on life and self empowerment and enlightenment. So it's definitely something that I've wanted to get into and study deeply recently, but I'm in a relationship. I have a kid. I'm working, so my ability to study and just approach any sort of religious tradition deeply the way that I would want to is a bit limited. But that's something that I'm going to continue working toward and developing ways of deepening my understanding and my relationship to spirituality, religious traditions, etc., without it, being something that is tied specifically to one in particular, or, after much deliberation and study, maybe, making a choice in that way, or just saying, yeah, none of this is even worth it. Are you doing anything towards self improvement?
Yeah, I'm trying to get, a lot healthier. So just been doing, I mean, I don't really go to the gym, but it's nothing calisthenics can't do. So I've just been doing workouts at home and trying to resist eating like a bunch.
Right. I'm like, yeah, try. You can't resist eating for too long, right?
Yeah. And I mean, aside from physical stuff, just get my practice in on my art, making everything better, practicing learning an instrument, doing all kinds of stuff so I can just branch out and express myself to the fullest.
I loved when you mentioned calisthenics, just because that's what I do. After the pandemic, I stopped going to the gym and discovered calisthenics. It's been amazing. It's been incredible. I love it. It's something that I could do every day. It's something that I could do in my house. It's something that, I don't have to leave the house and just waste so much time that I could be, doing other things, spending time with Paula, spending time with Marilyn, my daughter, and reading and just developing in other ways without having to waste the amount of time that you usually do going to gyms, and then also just within the gym waiting for machines to open up, or for racks to be not used, etc. So I'm a big proponent of calisthenics, and just making sure that people know how efficient and effective it is as a exercise regimen. Any big regrets in your life so far?
It's interesting because I'm the type of person who is kind of just like if you hold things like as regrets too long, they're gonna bog you down. They're gonna pile up and they're gonna get to you eventually. So I kind of just make peace with my choices and the things that have happened, so I can just keep going. There are things that there are a few things that I've had to look at myself in the mirror and accept that like that happened and that was your fault. But owning up to it and just accepting it it's kind of liberating.
You
the
seem
most.
very grounded and in a good place mentally, because the last two responses have been something that I feel have captured where I want to be, right? And I think I'm mostly there. So it's fun to hear you saying what you're saying, because I relate completely to your two last responses. And finally, to wrap up with the what's lacking question, what's your favorite book, movie, and album of all time?
Okay. It's funny because I don't really read too many books or like listen to albums like that. I tried. I tried my hardest to pick some things out. My favorite book, and it's a really funny story about why this. Well, it's not a funny story about why this is my favorite book, but it's an interesting one at least. It's my favorite book is Parasite Eve, and that is a book. I forget the artist, the writer's name, but it was written by a were they like some kind of professor, but somebody, a Japanese person, and was it became really popular. It became like there's a video game based off of it, and
Okay.
it was a movie in Japan. It's about this doctor. These doctors were experimenting with. They were doing some kind of experiment. It's been a while, but essentially, this lady died in a car crash, and there was this girl who was waiting for a transplant, for a liver transplant, and the mitochondria cells of the woman who died, they were evolving and trying to like take over a host, and it's a really weird like sci-fi horror, and
Sounds horrific. Yes.
it's an interesting one. As for
Okay.
movie, I think I'm gonna have to go with. I don't think it's my favorite movie, but it's something that makes me like hits me in the feels every time I watch it. But this movie called AI, Artificial Intelligence.
I love that movie
Yeah.
with Scarlett Johansson. No. Oh, is that the Steven Spielberg one?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why my brain confused AI with her. Maybe because there's been so much talk about artificial intelligence, and I was reading an article about. Anyways, yeah, sorry. AI. See, I love that one too. That was with that boy from The Sixth Sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, yeah, thank you, brain, for unscrambling. But yes, AI is a great movie. I'm sorry. Her is too. I love her. By the way,
I think I've seen that one.
you need to watch that. Yes, if you like AI and you like Parasite Eve, it sounds like you would enjoy her.
I saw that the first time I saw that I was a little kid, and like I was like 6 or 7 when I saw that movie. Even then, I was like, by the end of the movie, I was like, wow, and I cried. I cried hard, and I was a little kid because I understood one of the a bunch of the feelings that it was instilling in me. And then album, huh?
Yeah.
I really don't listen to much albums. I like
Back to back episodes of people just having difficulties picking a an album. It never gets old, surprising me that
but
that's
it's
the case.
I mean, a lot of the music that I listen to is from games.
Okay.
So I have favorite albums from games.
That that counts. I mean, some people, people love soundtrack albums, and that counts.
All right. Well, all right. I'll uh I'll throw this one out there. I
Uh-huh.
One of my favorites is the soundtrack from Persona 5, composed by Shoji Meguro. That man's the goat.
The go in video game composing, or just like composer period.
I think he is really up there in video game music composing. Like that music always hits.
Now, is this just instrumental background music to the video game, or are there lyrics and
Yeah, there's
um
vocals. They have for this Shoji Meguro has worked with like a bunch of different singers, but the one who's specifically on that soundtrack is a Japanese singer called Lin. She has really nice vocal range.
you seem to be fully enamored and to have embraced Japanese culture, and is that something that's always been a big part of who you are and how you identify, or is this something recent?
It's like since I was a kid. I remember I don't remember what show it was exactly, but no, I was a little kid. It was probably, you know what? I'm not gonna lie. It was probably either Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
But I was a kid, and the TV was on, and I saw, those animes, those shows, and I was like, I want to do that when I was.
And now you're doing it.
Yeah.
All right, Drew. This has been great. Thank you for joining us for the What's Liking podcast. Keep in touch, and I'll see you later.